Hi, Meghna.
Hi.
Welcome on board. Meghna, you wear a lot of hats, from a journalist to an author. You've written a mix of short stories. Now, when did you feel that writing was your calling?
There was no sort of eureka moment. I think it came to me very slowly. It almost crawled up and creeped up to me. My first short story was published. It was called Aberration, I remember, when I was all of 19 years old. And it was India's first website, Fresh Lime Soda. And that's the first time I saw my name on print and I got recognized as an author. And it felt very empowering. But I think writing, the kind of discipline it requires, is not really for the young and skittish. So I think then I didn't really dwell on it very long. But then I wrote a short story collection that is abominable. Thank God it never got published. It's called The Third Eye. And on my 25th birthday, I remember my brother, Rahat Pant, the comedian, he came. I was working with Arnab Goswami that time at Times Now.
Times Now.
And he came sort of very sweetly with this whole bunch of my published stories, like in a book form. And that's the first time I saw my name on the cover of a book. And he had done it with so much love, and it felt again so empowering to see my name on the cover of a book. And when I saw that, I said, this is what I want to do with my life. So I continued journalism for another 5 years, but I also started pursuing writing at the side as a hustle. And once my first book was published 7 years later, at the age of 32, One and a Half Wife got published. And then, Penguin Random House approached me and said, we loved the novel, and do you have anything else? And again, very, skittishly. And I didn't have that kind of confidence then. I was just starting out, and I was not from a publishing background. It was all self-taught, all self-made. I sent them my collection of short stories called Happy Birthday, and they loved it. And, and again, everybody said short stories don't sell. But that book was so powerful. It got longlisted for the world's biggest short story prize, the Frank O'Connor Award. It got recognized by Wikipedia independently as one of the world's top 10 short story collections. So I think after that I said, okay, this is what I want to do full time. And I quit my job as a journalist and I moved back to Mumbai and I became a full-time author. So that's how my journey began.
It's interesting. I think it's a calling.
It is.
It is a calling, I think, but your journalism background did give you that base.
Yes.
In terms of content, writing, and you chose your path.
Absolutely.
So you had a choice. You did fiction and you reported facts. You did interesting things, even in, and I think your books have a very feminist touch to it. Can you elaborate on that?
Journalism is sort of... you're making a building, but with a scaffolding. So there's a safety net, right? But writing fiction is literally like you're making a building without any safety net, any scaffolding. With journalism, it's like you are reporting on what universe the God made. But in fiction, writing fiction, you're actually creating a universe that doesn't exist and almost acting like God. So it's a very interesting, analogy I always use, that journalism is sort of, you're the fact checker.
True.
But in fiction, you're actually the fact maker. So it's very interesting. They're completely two different mediums. But I have realized as a person, I am more in the quest for wisdom than in the quest for information. So for me, I love journalism because it helps me sort of keep my head above ground. Because as a writer, I tend, especially when I'm writing, with the first draft of anything, I tend to withdraw. I'm almost in a cave. You can't reach me. It's a cocoon that I've built. So journalism keeps forcing me to go out there and see what's still happening in the world and occupy my space, I guess, as a human being. Whereas fiction requires me to withdraw as a human being and stop the human chatter and just sort of create
something which is new, right?
Yes.
I think
and
we
it
all
exist
need
before.
to
And you
move
have to
away from
convince
reality
people.
at
Yes.
times, right? And create a space for ourselves. And I
Yes.
think when you read these books, you
Yeah.
tend to relate to the character, you tend to
Absolutely.
relate to the situation, and it creates a different space for
Absolutely.
yourself.
Yeah.
So, wow, interesting.
Yes.
So you've enjoyed and you've been writing for how many years now?
I've been writing for almost 15... I've been writing for 20 years. I've been published since 13 years. So it took almost more than 5 years till I got published.
Okay.
But what writing brings to me, and what's very interesting is, there was this Turkish artist, Dino, and he was trying to create a picture to depict happiness. And in that picture, you see this sort of family, it's huddled together on a broken bed, and there's a leaky roof, and the room is like dilapidated and ugly. But yet, all of them are smiling. And what he was trying to show is that happiness is not the absence of suffering, happiness is the acceptance of suffering. And I think literature does something very similar, like you were saying. You don't deny the truth, you shine the light on these dark corners of life that nobody wants to look at. True. And life is equal parts tragedy, it's equal parts beauty, and it's up to us to experience it the way it's meant to be experienced. Nobody's life is perfect. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are,
True.
how beautiful, famous, or how perfect your life seems on the outside, especially now in this Insta world in which we live, right? Everything is beauty is so carefully curated nowadays. But life is not like that. Life is meant to be messy. It's meant to be tragic. It's meant to make you grow. And what you take away from it is important.
It's also what you put your mind to, right? It's
Absolutely.
what you put your mind through. And I think when you get these kind of reflections and these kind of stories which you read, I think it somewhere gives you a direction to put yourself to and a change.
Yes.
I think a lot of times the books that I have read have shaped me.
Absolutely.
Have made me who I am and made me relate to things which I would not have thought normally. So, don't you think the women's voices has shifted, changed, or where do you see it going?
So women's voices, I actually wrote, I was quoted on this also. So when I started out in publishing, right, 13 years ago, if you were a female writer, first of all, the list that would come out, right, the writing list, the top authors of India, they'd always have a separate list for best authors of India, which would have 90% men and maybe ek do token women.
True.
And then there'd be a separate list of best female authors. But you never got a list of best male authors. So it was always very interesting. And even the awards, right, like for every, if we talk about the Booker, for instance, right, so for every Arvind Adiga, there's a Kiran Desai. For every Salman Rushdie, there's an Arundhati Roy, who's also won the Booker.
Sure.
But still, the Booker has been given to twice as many men as compared to women. And it's a similar situation even in India, where if you look at our literary awards, 3 times more have been given to men. And now what's happened is, I think it's overcorrected in the last couple of years, but now बहुत tokenism हो गया है. Now it's like they'll give awards, literary awards to women who are publishing their debut novels, who are in their early 30s, belong to a certain part of India that has been marginalized and of course deserves recognition. But then you're overcorrecting and going into tokenism. Then it's not based on merit, it's based on guilt.
You're trying to do a balance.
Yeah, there needs to be a balance that you award people gifts and awards and publish them based on their merit, not based on increasing the biases that are already inherent in society. So I think we need to also look at all of that.
So capabilities, right?
Capabilities, like even the book covers, for example, like every time I published a book, it was literary, but they try to put pink or they try to put stilettos on the cover or lipstick, and I'm like, that has not. I don't write chick lit, I wouldn't mind it if I was a chick lit writer, but I'm not. So
you wouldn't do that with a male.
They would never do that with a male. And I always say I wish female authors had the confidence of even mediocre male authors. They have so much confidence. But
I think it's because of the scenario also and because of what you have faced through. Okay, coming back to your books, which is the book which has been closest to your heart?
I think Boys Don't Cry. It's been picked up for a movie adaptation as well. In fact, it's very exciting and I hope you see it on your screen very soon. Because I think it was also this cloak of silence that we have on what are called female issues, like domestic violence, for example. And I think to speak about it, I think the first time I wrote an article about domestic violence, I've experienced it. And I wrote it as a survivor, not a victim. And I remember it was published in 2015 in Femina. And you'll not believe it, Rahat, there was the floodgates of hell almost opened up. Because that time this was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking about it. It was assumed to be a private issue that took place behind closed doors. I had actresses calling me up and saying, I have been thrown out of a moving car by my actor husband. I had this dancer, I remember this girl from I think Orissa or somewhere, and she's like, my boyfriend broke my back, I can't dance anymore. But men also, by the way, messaged me and said that we have also a guy messaged and he said his girlfriend had hit him across the face with a hot kettle. And he said, I'm not allowed to talk about it because it's emasculating. How can a ladki hit a guy? So imagine men also who are victims
Have
they're
not,
further.
they've been able to open up.
They're not able to open up. Are you not man enough? And
Okay.
they're, it's their.
It's a typical,
this toxic
we
masculinity.
live in that chauvinistic.
We live in, and the book Boys Don't Cry was launched at the Jaipur Lit Fest, and I remember there was an audience of like 800 people, and the men were speaking up more than the women. And they're like, we've never been given a platform to talk about this. So I think these are issues that are hurtful to, of course, women much more because the power dynamics is such. But we need to also, when I talk of feminism, as you mentioned earlier, it's not about men versus women. It's about women and men versus patriarchy. Because
True.
patriarchy is a system that's been unjust to both genders.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think even when the whole Me Too movement came up,
Yeah.
it to a certain extent, of course, it built up the fact of women protection,
Right.
women security. But I think somewhere down it went too literally.
Yes.
And the women did tend to use it to their advantage.
Yes.
I noticed a lot of my friends at workplaces sharing that. We've got to be so careful because,
Yes.
so yeah, you're right. I think everything needs to have that,
Balance.
a balance.
And responsibility. I think in activism, in the Me Too movement, I was, very vociferous about. I did a lot of shows. I spoke about it on stage. I remember for First Post. I did see that there were certain women who were exploiting it for their own agenda, and that was very problematic and difficult to digest. And I didn't platform them, but there were most of the cases, 99% of cases, were genuine. But what it led to, a lot of people said, "Arey, Me Too didn't work in India," but that's not true.
No,
you saw,
it did.
Khabar Lahariya, this beautiful rural paper that's run by women, by the way. They were reporting on how the rural areas also, wo WhatsApp group jo hai na, they had a WhatsApp group, and in that also there were certain men also in the firm, and they changed their vocabulary. Like those jokes were no longer acceptable.
Yeah.
People are
So they did the
hiding-
corrections
Yeah,
that
you
were
see
needed.
the policies.
And I think
at
a certain
firms.
amount of respect.
Yes.
They
That women
garnered.
can speak up. Yeah. So it changed a lot of things at urban and rural levels, which may not be platformed as much, but there's a lot of.
I think
shifts
it's
that are
always a
taking place.
beginning.
Yes.
There's always a beginning
Yeah,
part
it's a
of
starting
it.
point.
Yeah. Okay. Meghna, you've seen a whole lot of crowd coming in, the Gen
Yeah.
Z, the millennials.
Yeah.
What do you see? Do you see Gen Z reading? Do you see them capturing, do you see a huge amount of them as your audience or into books and literacy to a level?
So I think Gen Z is reading, but I think they're reading differently from how we read when we were growing up. So there's a lot of again, like writing. I say writing, there's no correct medium for being a writer. You can, I've been a short story writer, I've been a flash fiction writer, I've written novels, I'm now writing screenplays. My tweets have gone viral when I've written stories, or, I wrote the entire Mahabharata
Yes,
in 100
I read
tweets.
about that.
Right? So I feel like writing can't, or stories can't be curtailed by the genre or the medium. A good story is a good story no matter how it's told. So I believe Gen Z has changed its medium. So maybe they're reading more web comics or Substacks or even Insta captions.
True.
But the fact is they are reading. And I think that kind of visceral, semantic experience of life, when it can come through only words and emotions that only stories can capture. And every generation is going to crave that. The only difference is, for example, now AI and literature, right? There's been so much chatter about it. And I'm like, now AI is going to change literature in such a way that you'll have these holographic images of authors.
True.
So imagine Salman Rushdie, like a holographic image next to me here.
True.
And whispering his satanic verses or whatever, into my ears. And it's such a...
It's a different way
it's
to
a
look at
different
it.
way
I
to
think
look at
it's
it,
every
yeah.
genre
Yes.
has more than genre. I think every phase of life has a
Yes.
different way to look at literacy. Yeah, and you had the Kindle.
Yeah.
People move from books to Kindle, then
Yes.
from Kindle to AI. So I think we've all gone through that whole
Yeah.
journey. So yeah, it's interesting. Tell me, in your literary phrase,
Yeah.
when you were going through, what did you find? Any challenges you feel, which
Yeah.
could have, if how did you overcome it? And where did you feel that if you had opportunities as a woman
Yeah.
could have been better?
I think the one thing that nobody tells you as a writer is writing is just one part of the process. You also have to find a good publisher, and then you also have to market the book. And I think nobody talks about this. So in one of my books called How to Get Published in India, which has been one of my most popular non-fiction titles, I speak about the whole journey because, Shobha Day had again launched the book at the Jaipur Lit Fest only. And I said, Shobha, how come nobody's come up with a book like this, because it's the only guidebook in India about how to write a book, then publish a book, and then market a book.
Yeah.
And it's also got essays from, industry insiders, from authors like Jeffrey Archer, Twinkle Khanna, Shobha Ray, to ghost writers, to publishers, to even self-help publishers, and of course, the agencies that adapt books to screen. So my whole premise is that nobody talks about it, and authors keep the publishing insights as secrets, which I don't think is fair. So I wrote this book so that the struggles that I faced, it took me 5 to 7 years to be able to find my first, to be able to understand the publishing process after I'd written 1.5 5.
And what works and what doesn't.
What works, what doesn't. It took me 6 months of research to understand how to send a query letter to a publisher. Because I said I will only publish with a top publisher, otherwise I will not get published. So I was very determined to do it the right way.
Because it gets recognized the
So
right
it gets
manner.
recognized. It has to
Yeah.
have the correct, the
True.
story has to find the best platform. So nobody talks about that. So I think the entire process is quite cumbersome. It barely pays, so you have to do it just for the love of writing. You're not going to get as famous as, Priyanka Chopra's dog also, or a B-grade actor. So please recognize that it's not a claim to fame. It's not a ticket to fame. It's not a ticket to money. It's not a ticket to anything else than being able to write a story that you want to tell.
Yeah.
So you have to do it out of extreme love and extreme passion for storytelling. There's no other reason to do this to yourself. It's very masochistic.
A lot of
Yeah.
people of late, you said it earlier, ghostwriting.
Yes.
Everybody says, I want to tell my story.
Yeah.
So it's become the next phase. Every
Yeah.
corporate person you want to talk to, he says, I want to build my brand and I want to tell my story.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I think good for them. I think so. Vanity Press, so Vanity Publishing, as it's called, is also some. I think if somebody wants to do it, and especially I see this a lot with. I get approached a lot for ghost writing as well, but I'm so caught up with writing my own stories that I haven't been able to venture into that. But there are a lot of professional ghost writers
True.
who do this for a living, and see, everybody's not a writer, and writing takes a special kind of skill.
Absolutely.
Just again, this discipline of being able to root your feet to the ground and not moving. Like last week, I had to go to the physiotherapist because I stayed up for 2 days straight and didn't move from my bed because I was writing something. So that's an ability that very few people have. So you can have the talent for storytelling, but if you don't have that skill set of discipline and resilience, you can't become a writer. So a lot of people, of course, are talented. Of course, have beautiful stories to tell. So I feel the more books that are published, the better it is for the world at large.
True.
So whatever purpose it serves in your life, whether it's vanity, whether it's your ego, do it. Yeah, life is short. Embrace yourself and embrace your journey.
That's true. I think, you can tell your story, especially if you have a story to tell.
Yes.
Why not?
Why not?
And if you're not good, accept the fact that you can't write it. But if
Absolutely.
you have an interesting story to tell, why not
Yeah.
get somebody to write it?
Absolutely.
So, okay, Meghna, what was your turning point with
Yeah.
regards to financial independence? You just spoke that, while books are very satisfying,
Yes.
they're not monetarily rewarding.
Not at all.
So, what do you feel?
So I actually built a safety net before I took the leap of faith and decided to become a writer. And what was very interesting is my financial journey has been very interesting because I was working in corporate finance in Switzerland with a pharma company after my MBA. And when I decided to quit, I had a chunk of money, and my mother said, "Tu to jaake shopping mein blow up kar degi." And I was returning to Mumbai at that point for 2 years. I was back home, and she made me invest in a flat. And I remember my mom and me, this was in 2005 or something, my mom and me walked into this, to meet this agent, and he's peering over our shoulder. He's like, "Sir, nahi aaye?" He was waiting for, my father or my brother or whatever to be around. And he couldn't fathom that 2 women can come in and actually buy a flat. For him, it was untenable that this can happen. And we had a lot of these madam sir moments where, they couldn't call us madam or sir, so they'd call us madam sir. So when it came to investment by women, people were in shock, especially 20 years ago. But again, I say that women in India, the one mistake we are making, we've now taught ourselves, that, okay, we have to go out and earn. You can even go and spend. We're not teaching ourselves how to invest. So, like my grandmom, for example, my Nani ji, she became a widow at the age of 35. And it's a very cool story. And she was not educated, right? She was not working because patriarchy. And she lost her husband at the young age of 35, 5 kids to raise, 4 of whom were daughters in Shimla, okay, in North India, where things were very patriarchal back then. And I remember she had told me a story that she had hidden gold bars in the stairs and under the floor behind the wall, and she broke it all open slowly, slowly. She didn't tell anyone that she'd been
As
hiding
and when
it.
she needed.
Yeah, because she got married at like 12 or 13 or whatever. So she'd been married for 20 plus years. So whatever her husband would earn, she would siphon away a part of it, saying it's for the household expenses, and buy gold bars. And
Wow.
those gold bars ka value over those 20 plus years increased so much
yeah.
that she was able, through those gold bars, send her children to the best universities and colleges in the north. My
Wow.
mother, in fact, retired as, was a gold medalist at Chandigarh University. She was given the award by the President of India back then, and she retired as a Chief Commissioner of Income Tax in Mumbai. So for a person whose mom was not even sent to school to do that journey was just because my Nani ji invested wisely. And we are not doing that as women even today. We're not owning.
We're so caught up with our own.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not owning the power that we have. We're not embracing it. And I think we need to be money positive, that if you're earning it or if you have access to that money in whatever form, invest it and don't feel guilty about it, or spend it or in whatever way
No, I
you
think
feel.
it gives you a sense of security to find your
Yes.
own path
Yes.
as and when you want it. Because I know a lot of people who do want financial, who do
Freedom.
feel they
Yeah.
want their freedom, but somewhere are
Yeah.
restricted because they don't have the financial independence
Absolutely.
for their children or for themselves. And I think it binds you a lot. So if
Absolutely.
you do, and I think each one of us as women have the bandwidth and the
Yeah.
capacity, because we all have creative talent within ourselves.
yes.
So I think utilizing that to the maximum and investing well, yeah, it's
Very important.
I think it's very, very important. Okay, going back a little bit, you did speak on social media.
Right.
What do you feel? How has social media been a part of your journey?
So the one thing a very wise author told me is, "Jo dikta hai, wo bikta hai." So even in India today, for authors everywhere, actually not just in India, around the world, unless you're promoting your book, or even for you as your business, right, you have to promote it.
Yeah.
So there's so much noise. So whatever you are selling, right, all of us are now products, and we need to get wise. Even me as an artist, I'm not supposed to think of the business aspect of things, but the fact is you have to. If my books don't sell, then the publisher will not publish my next book. So I have to keep proving myself with every new book. So you can't be complacent like the olden times and say, "हाँ मैं ivory tower में बैठकर अपनी किताब लिखूंगा," and I never have to show myself and I'll be the.
I think even the
crazy
well-known
genius.
authors have to.
Yeah, they have to promote.
They have
I remember I
to promote.
interviewed Kiran Desai's new book has come out, and I absolutely love her and her mum Anita Desai's books. I've grown up reading them, and I got to interview her for Vogue, and she published a book after 20 years, and she has no social media presence, but she's shown on talent. And her book got, again, I think shortlisted for the Booker right now. But that's a very rare case.
Yeah.
Most of us, like look at Chetan Bhagat, right? Mediocre talent, mediocre writing, but on the basis of PR,
Has built it up.
He's become a household name.
But also don't you, I agree to the fact that
Yeah.
you need to, whatever you write, whatever you talk, you need to go out and market it.
Right.
But also sometimes, don't you think over-marketing yourself, it misconstrues, yeah? I mean, it
Absolutely.
misconstrues, sorry.
Yeah.
It does not give you what you actually want. So I went and saw a movie, or I went and read a book on the basis of what it was, but it wasn't what it. So it does tend to sometimes give a different picture.
It's all about optics.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is, I think, at times. So, yeah, I think if done in the right manner, if you've used the right platforms,
Yes.
if you've communicated the right, and I think I agree with the fact, having a good publisher who's had a record
Yes.
of publishing, because nowadays you have so many publishing houses
Right.
coming up. People are doing even self-publishing.
Absolutely, yes.
As such. So, the choice of choosing
Yes.
becomes even tougher. So if you have a good publishing house who has a track record of
Right.
the kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. You come from an illustrious family. Your parents are both from the IS. Your brother is a stand-up comedian. So where do you see, how has your family helped you shape yourself? You feel?
My parents have been amazing, so is my brother. I think the one thing that they spoke about, which didn't exist when they were growing up, is allowing their children to be completely themselves, unapologetically themselves. And I think that's so much freedom that Saurabh and I have. We didn't realize it then. I think now in retrospect we realize, I, for example, was a big nerd So I wanted to become a doctor, and I studied very hard. Okay, I know I don't look like a nerd, but I'm a complete nerd. I got this all my life. But I got into med school, and my parents actually said, "Ki Meghna, don't do this to yourself. You'll be studying till you're 30. Take up arts and just enjoy your life. We have worked hard enough."
Why? Very rarely you have a parent saying that.
There's no Indian parent
Who
I
says
have
that.
heard who said something like that.
True.
And people called my parents crazy at that time. They said, "What are you doing?" Then they allowed me, I'm saying, because they actually allowed me at that time in the early 2000s to go abroad and study and to choose whatever I wanted to do in life. And my brother didn't want to. So sending your daughter off at that time, again 25 years ago, to Switzerland and Singapore to study on her own. There was no Facebook, there was no social media. They could speak to me only once a month because I couldn't
It's a
afford
lot
to
of
call
courage
them.
and risk.
It's a lot of risk they trusted us a lot.
Yeah.
And that really gave us wings to fly because we had to develop our own confidence and chart our own course. There was no overprotection. There was nobody like micromanaging us. And I, by the way, am not the same parent at all. I'm very much a helicopter mom. My kids, every aspect of their life is managed by me. And even growing up, I know I'm going to sit and be hyper involved to the point of being annoying in all their decisions. But I think my parents are that rare bird that gave us. My dad, we got a sense of humor from my father. He has a joke for every occasion. He's the most entertaining man you'll meet. And my mother's very intellectual. So I remember my mom used to smoke.
So that's how
okay?
you all both got the balance, right?
We got the balance, and more than that, like my mother used to smoke, okay, back in she grew up, she's always been a smoker, and that time it was very scandalous. And she would light up, you could smoke in restaurants and all, she would light up anywhere, and the whole restaurant would be staring at her. And we would get very embarrassed. We were teenagers, and we're like, "Stop it, mom, you're embarrassing us." And she'd say, "Why does what people say about you define you?
Very
It
interesting.
never defines you. You be who you are and be unapologetically you." I'm still learning. I'm a little bit of a people pleaser. I'm still learning how to let go of that.
So be confident about yourself.
Yes, and own who you are in
Yeah,
all your
that's
mistakes
true.
and all. Life is not meant to be perfect. We're not meant to be perfect creatures. We're all fundamentally flawed. And you have to be authentically yourself and own that narrative. And your life is going to be a checkered pattern. It's not going to be a straight line. Enjoy it, embrace the madness, embrace the journey. And I think that's
Yeah,
what
I
my
think it
parents
does.
taught
I
me.
think it's a lot of reflection of the values and the systems that they put into you
Yes.
that make you who you are. And I think the confidence factor, for your brother to choose
Comedy.
comedy, yeah, at
My
that
parents
point
used to
of time.
introduce him as stand-by comedian. They didn't know what a stand-up comedian.
At that
So
point
sort
of time, nobody knew a
Nobody knew
stand-up
stand-up
comedian.
comedy. He used to open for Veer Das, Saurabh. I remember there's some show on CNBC News on the loose. And my parents, for the life of them, could not understand what Saurabh was doing. So they were very happy for him, and they were like, "You be you." But they'd say, "Stand-by comedian." Hai, and people would be like, yeah.
Okay, you've done a book called Feminist Rani.
Right.
Okay, what are your views on feminism in India currently?
I think we need more stakeholders in it. I think Nazi feminists have unfortunately given feminism a very bad name. And again, like I said earlier, it's not about women versus men, it's about women and men versus patriarchy. So, we have to remember, look at our own history. Like for every Raja Ram Mohan Roy who, abolished sati, there was Gandhi ji who championed Stree Sakti. So for every Sarojini Naidu and Savitribai Phule, we had men who were also allies in the movement for equality. So let's not forget that men have to be stakeholders in the process. It'll help us all. So we need more stakeholders. We need more intersectionality. The Dalit community, the marginalized communities, unheard voices need to also be platformed. So, I mean, we are sitting here, in a bubble, and preaching to the converted is not going to help feminism. So we need to further our reach a lot more.
I think also build up a support structure, right?
Yeah.
Because earlier everybody said behind every successful man is a woman. So I think it also goes the other way around.
Yes,
It is the
absolutely.
kind of support structure
Yeah.
that you get as a family, as a partner, that makes
Absolutely.
you who you are.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just independent to each other as such. You were in journalism to the initial part of
Right.
your journey of life. Where do you see journalism today, Meghna? It's very different.
It's very different. I wish it was more honest. We used to be very honest. When I
Yeah.
was being taught journalism, I was never given an agenda or checklist that you can say this or you can't say this, or you have to pander to XX person or
I mean,
party.
controlled also,
It's very
right?
controlled. It's very contrived now. They're not reporting facts. They're reporting a narrative that
True,
has
true.
been brushed by some sort of agenda. So I wish we come back to some authentic self. There's still very original, authentic voices that are powerful, and I think we need to again platform them more and give them more of their moment in the sun. And
Yeah, I think, the breaking news concept has gone haywire.
Yes.
Everything is a breaking news. There's no
Yeah.
sense, everything is a sensationalism.
Yes.
You create, you have one thing. And I think you're absolutely right in the fact that stating that, okay, state the facts, but state them in a manner which
Yes.
you're supposed to state.
Absolutely.
Rather than, making it all sensational.
yeah.
Okay. Meghna, you've moved onward to your journey in terms of writing. You've moved into screenplays. I know it's a very interesting because I think a lot of people and I think a whole lot of the movies in the space of television and movies. There's a lot of different kind of cinema that's coming.
Right,
Is
right.
that what has taken you to this journey, or because you have chosen your paths very well, right?
I hope so. I'm trying to. I think what content we're seeing now is so interesting. It's riveting. It's intellectual, but also entertaining. So I remember 10 years ago, I was approached to write for TV and to write for films, but I couldn't associate with the content. I said these are not the kind of stories I can write. I wish I was a kind of author who could write, for example, romance, because romance sells. It's an evergreen story
Yeah,
that
true.
will sell across
True,
centuries.
true.
But I'm very cynical. I've never even read a Mills and Boons in my life, so I can't write that. I'll write a story where the guy will murder the woman or something like that. So, no rom-com for me. But now I think the stories we're telling, the thrillers and the horrors, and I think they're more raw, they're more brutal, they're more honest, and again, very unapologetic. So I think this is a very interesting time to be a writer in movies or for OTT. All kinds of voices are coming forward, and people are very empowered. And young India, Rahat, they are so eager for fresh content, for
Absolutely.
original ideas and path-breaking, genre-breaking stories.
And they're open to accepting that
Yes,
right now.
different kinds of. Look
They
at the
don't
kind of
want the
content we
same
have.
action
No,
and all.
no,
They
no,
want
no.
interesting content. You're
Even
right.
South India, the emotions they draw out.
True.
We may not relate to that kind of life sitting over here in Mumbai, but the emotions they draw out of you. My God, you relate to that person's life so well, even though you've never lived a day of their
Yeah,
life.
I think,
So that's the power of storytelling, and I think that's what films do. They give you such a vast medium to evoke a certain emotion that you have felt, and to create that in someone else whom you've never met. So it's a very powerful medium, and I think it's a very exciting medium to be in. So I'm hoping.
So
Hoping my
what
stories are
kind?
told.
I don't want you to divulge the stuff, but what kind? What direction of content are you working on?
I'm right now, as usual, experimenting. Even my publishers keep complaining that can't put me in a genre because I'm always like, they're like, abhi short story likha, abhi non-fiction likha. Now she's writing a novel. Now she's writing thrillers. So even with the screenplays, I've written a very riveting thriller that's been picked up by a big producer. I wrote a comedy which was also a book published by Penguin, which, by the way, has now been translated to Hindi. So it's my first ever Hindi book called Badnaam Laddu. It
That's
just
your
came
recent,
out. My
that's
recent
your
one.
recent
It just
book.
came out like a couple of weeks ago. So it was very exciting to see my name on a Hindi book for the first time. What a wonderful feeling. It never gets old. And so I'm writing comedy, thrillers, and drama also. So drama is my go-to genre
Okay.
because that's what I also read. But trying to dabble, let's see what works.
True. You've, in your Wikipedia, you see a host of awards that you have gained. Which is the one which you feel you relate to the most?
I think the international ones for the short stories, because short stories are not recognized.
True.
They're impossible to sell. So even the publishers, it's a business at the end of the day. As much as we love to create art, we have to remember it's a business. So the publisher is not your enemy, which is something I hear from authors a lot, that how dare the publisher do XX thing or YY thing. And I'm like, it's a business for them. They also have to pay bills and overheads. So short stories don't sell, so of course they don't publish. But to be recognized for Happy Birthday, that was published by Penguin Random House, Franco Corner Award, that was a big one. Then also another one of my stories got longlisted for the Commonwealth Short Story Prize.
Wow, that's nice.
Which is it's global. The best voices around the world write for the Commonwealth Short Story Prize. So that for me was a big win. And of course, all my Indian national wins also, the Ladli Media Award, or, so many other wins.
It's a good validation, You're
Yes.
sure what you're doing
Yes.
is.
You
I
feel like
think,
you're on the right path.
Right path.
You're not
yeah,
just
it gives
fumbling
you
in the
a
dark.
good
Yeah.
direction. Okay, that takes me to the path is you have a lot of new age writers emerging into. Is there something you'd like to share with them? Like you said that you
Yeah.
did not have. The do's and
Mentors,
don'ts, mentors,
nothing, no
etc.
guidebook.
So, what is it? What is your advice to them?
Um, don't remember one thing. First of all, writing is rewriting. I think people get very complacent with the editing part of it. They get impatient. They want to get their story out there immediately. It's a long game in patience. I've learned this through screenplay writing. I've learned this through publishing. If you're a writer, be ready to be and I'm not a patient person, by the way, but I've really, really worked on that skill set, because from the time the idea germinates in your head to the time you finish writing that book, to the time it gets published, to the time you start marketing it, you're going to be with that story for at least 5 years. So give yourself that bandwidth, that it's going to take time. It's not an overnight process. It's not a tweet. It's not an Insta caption. You will have to invest a lot of time into it. So be kind to yourself also, and don't be your own gatekeeper to your dreams, or don't get hypercritical of your first draft. All first drafts are rubbish. Nobody publishes
you
their
just
first draft.
put down your
You're
thoughts,
just putting
right?
down your thoughts.
Yeah,
You're putting
that's
the
true.
skeleton, and then you put in the organs and the skin, then makeup, and then airbrush it also. Keep at it. You have got the first draft is a skeleton. You have to make it look like Insta worthy. So you have to polish your manuscript to that level. So be very patient about the process, and please approach publishers in the correct fashion, and read how to get published in India. Because, for example, like simple things like the query letter, the email that goes out to the publisher. For example, my friend Chiki Sarkar, who runs Juggernaut, she was telling me, Meghna, I get people saying Mr. Sarkar, dear Mr. Sarkar. Now, she's a woman.
You're not even researching well.
It's research you're not doing. Nobody's going to take you seriously. So please don't just polish your manuscript as a first-time writer. Also polish your submission email. You have to wow them. They get like every 2 minutes there's a new novel or story in the inbox.
True.
And 95% end up in the slush pile. Rejection rates are 95% in publishing.
Wow.
So why will they pick up your story unless you're really good and you approach them correctly? And by the way, only 10,000 copies in India constitute a bestseller. That's it in a country of 1.3 billion people. 10,000, because it's impossible to sell. So please create a business plan to market yourself. You are a brand now. You're like a toothpaste.
Yeah, look at yourself that way. I think
that
research the subjects,
Yes.
research what is relevant,
Yeah.
of course, and be very sure of what you're writing and
Absolutely.
what's very close to you, and believe in yourself.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think that's true. Okay, that takes me to the fact, how do you try and maintain your work-life balance?
I am a workaholic.
I know that.
And I'm working from, I think, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day. By working, I'm not just writing. I have 2 small girls. I'm a very hands-on mother. I have an active social life. I'm an ambivert, so I like meeting people, but I also need to then isolate for days sometimes. So I think the one thing that, especially as women, we really have to fight for is the people we live with, their respect for our time and space. So I think that because I'm not working at an office, I find that that's been my biggest challenge, to assert to people that just because I don't have an office, I'm a writer and I work from home, doesn't mean I'm not working. So I think that has been the biggest challenge. The doorbell will keep ringing, ki bhabhi sabzi, bhabhi ye, bhabhi. And I'm like, think of me as an office. This is not my bedroom, this is my office. Do not disturb. So I think that taking all the time and being able to fight for it. That
True.
respect, very few people are able to get, especially women.
I think understanding that is very, very important.
Very
I think
important.
somewhere down, I think COVID did bring about that fact, because a lot of
Yes.
people did balance
Work
work
from home.
and stuff. But I think still you don't get that. Oh, you're from
Yeah.
home.
Yes.
Okay, then you can do all this. You can do this, you can do that, you can do everything together. True, and being a woman especially.
Yes.
A male still gets it.
Absolutely, yeah.
True.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to take you through a couple of quick round of questions.
Sure.
Okay. It's a quick rapid fire.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Writing or journalism, if you had to choose one forever?
Writing.
Tea or coffee?
coffee black.
Kindle or physical book?
I went through a Kindle phase, but I need my books physical. I need to hold them and smell them.
Yeah, me too. I've
Yeah, it's a
never been
different
able
feeling.
to. That Kindle of mine is just lying.
Yes, yes.
One author you'd love to co-write with?
Oh, Chimamanda Adichie. She's this Nigerian author. I'm obsessed with her work. I'm obsessed with her speeches. She's a feminist author. I love her short stories. I love her novels. I love her. One of her TEDx speeches got converted into a book. So I've read all her work and I absolutely adore her.
Okay. Morning person or night?
I used to be a night owl, but after having kids, I'm a morning person. There's no choice.
One word your closest friends would use for you?
Resilient.
Thank you very much, Meghna.
Thank you,
It was a
Rahat.
pleasure having you on board. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Such
Thank
a
you.
fun chat.
If you like the content we're producing, please do like, subscribe, and share. We're on Missed Conversations with Rahat Beri. Thank you.